I'm Sean Crawford, host of Varsity podcast. Today we're at the Rock Nation office in New York, featuring Jalyn Armour-Davis, cornerback from the Ravens. It's a great episode. We talk about his journey from Mobile, Alabama to playing for the University of Alabama and Nick Saban, but then also his journey so far in the NFL with the Ravens. Follow us on all of our channels at Varsity podcast and continue to follow along for the journey. Well, I got you a gift since, I heard that you're big into scents.
Yeah.
And this was kind of last minute because we talked about it, but then I was like, man, we gonna figure something out. We're gonna get him a gift. And so we stopped at the deli today. We got a bacon, egg, and cheese because we had to get one,
New York.
And we checked out, and they had a candle. So
Okay, then.
I know you're big in the scent, so we got you a candle from the very own Bed-Stuy deli. That's a real authentic Bed-Stuy, staple right there.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what it smelled like. Got light up and figure it out. But I think,
appreciate it because anytime I go to a hotel room, I have to have a candle, and I did not bring one with me.
Oh,
So you just gave me something that I absolutely needed. So I appreciate that.
yeah.
That's
Let
love.
me know how it is.
Yeah, I give you some feedback for sure.
You a Bama boy, so like obviously went to Bama for college, but also grew up in Mobile, right?
Yeah.
Kind of just touch on that upbringing, but then also maybe how just growing up in Mobile played into who you are today, but then also you lead and you going to Bama for college.
Yeah. So my whole family, we all from Mobile. Both sides of my family, they all went to. They really are. We all from really one area. Both sides of my family went to the same high school. They all went to LaFleur High School, which is in Tummaville. But around age like 3 or 4, my mom we just upped and moved out of nowhere and went to Birmingham, Alabama, which is at the north part of Alabama. We were there for about 4 years, and then we came back to Mobile. So I still spend most of my time in Mobile, but I still love Mobile. I go back when I can, go see my family, mainly for my grandparents or something like that. But, it's funny to say, I was an Alabama fan, but, I was an Alabama fan until I was in the football. So, my whole family, everybody's basketball. I was, really one of the few, the only to play football. And so I really didn't understand recruiting or anything like that. I had no idea about it, to be honest. And, you grow up watching Alabama, you grow up watching Auburn. Most of my family was all Alabama, so naturally I rooted for Alabama. But when it came time for me to receive scholarships and things like that, I wasn't this just huge Alabama fan. This is where I knew I wanted to go. It's actually fun. I think at the end of my sophomore season, I dropped my top 6 schools that I was looking at, and Alabama wasn't in it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Auburn was in it. It was Auburn, LSU, Florida State, Georgia, and Southern Cal, I think.
Because that would have been 2014?
2000, might have been 15, I
15?
think. End of 2015. I got a lot of my scholarships really early.
Yeah, so they obviously had a number of championships and stuff before that,
Yeah, I was well aware of what, they stood for and everything. It's just, I don't know, I just, first of all, I wanted to be out of state.
Yeah.
When all this started to happen, I told my mom, Ma, I don't even really want to be in the state of Alabama. I want to do something different. I want to go somewhere that, it's an adventure for me almost. I had Southern Cal on the list, and she was like, why? I was like, I don't know.
It's USC.
Why not? It's USC.
Yeah, right.
I didn't even, not even for their background and their culture. It was just I was a USC fan for no reason.
Yeah.
I think around that time, I was a big fan of Sewell Cravens.
Okay, yeah.
When he was there. I was a huge fan of his. And so watching his highlights and him play all the time, I was like, I want to go to USC. And obviously never really made it out there. But, if I was able to visit out there, I probably would have, just because I had been able. But
because that was Adoree was out there around that time.
Adoree was out there. Yeah. T. Martin was out there. So and he's from Mobile as well. So, but when it came to Alabama, man, I just, my mom never made a decision for me. But it was me and her a lot of the time throughout my life, at least just every day. And so I trusted her. And it's it's just a feeling that you feel from her. She wouldn't tell me, but you could feel it. And she was only able to visit Alabama, Auburn, and Florida State. And those were the ones it was really Florida State I was really close to thinking about going. And when we took the Alabama visit, like I'm just watching her as we're going around campus and everything. And it's like, I could feel the trust that she had in the school that's where I would flourish or be my best, even if I didn't think so at the time. And that's, kind of what led to me kind of leaning into it more. So I take more visits, a lot of the games and all that, and ended up in Tuscaloosa. So I guess she didn't make my decision, but if it wasn't for her, I'm not sure if I would have ended up there. Mm-hmm. So, but I'm glad I did, obviously. It turned out, the way it was supposed to. It was rough. It was hard, but for me and what I needed the experiences that I had at Alabama to get to where I was. Like if I went somewhere else, not to name any school, who knows if I would have had those. I might have had more success, but wouldn't have been able to learn a lot of the lessons that I learned under Coach Saban and at Alabama, and loaded roster, and you're not better than everybody here. You really got to find a way. Things like that, it just made me who I am, even off the field. Just learn how to get through adversity in general. So, I still tell my mom to this day, I'm thankful that you went on those visits, because she wasn't even supposed to go on the visits. I would go visit schools myself, just drive there myself and come back and give her feedback. So, God knew what he was doing with that.
Yeah, you talked about it, going to Alabama. First of all, the situation was tough, but then also your first year there, you were recovering from an injury in high school, right? Or was the injury, did you happen?
So
freshman year?
My very first home game, I tore the ACL in pregame warm-ups. Right. So
that's crazy.
That was that whole year.
Yeah,
it's actually things that probably never really even been talked about that year, as far as my injury history. I had 3 surgeries over that course of, as far as the year, speaking of freshman year. Mm-hmm. So I learned a lot, and that probably was my darkest moments. Just, already you trying to adjust, get into Alabama, being a freshman, you starting over, and then you really at the bottom of the bottom because of the injuries. And
where were you at on the depth chart? I guess that week 1 game.
So I was second string. I was second string nickel, and I was back up at corner.
Okay.
And the DB room was crazy that year. And we had Trey Diggs starting, Savion Smith had transferred in that year. That was Pat Surtain. We came in the same class. Shaheem Carter, Xavier McKinney, Deontay Thompson was at safety. It was wild. But I was super excited because the first game I didn't play in. We played Louisville. Mm-hmm. I got 1 snap. But the following week I was supposed to start on all special teams.
Right.
So I'm I'm hyped. It's the first home game. My family's there. My grandmother's there. My mom, all that. I'm ready. And, pregame, you're not even really going that fast, right. Especially the 7-on-7 portion. You just mirroring the receiver, a little break. I'm going 56%. And just one break, I'm breaking on the curl route, and it just, boom, gave out. And I had never had a significant injury before to know what it feels like. So when they felt it, I lost my balance. I'm man, something wrong. I'm hobbling and stuff. I'm okay, I'll be all right. But I'm trying to jog off, and I fall. So I'm okay, where's the trainer? Something's really not right. And I get to him. He's all right, come on, let's go jog in the locker room. I'm ain't no jogging right now. I can barely stand on it. And I remember the panic that I was starting to feel through my body getting hot. And it didn't take long for them to do the assessment. Anybody that's torn the ACL, they know,
I tore both.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah. Right so there, it's quick. Yeah.
It's quick. I'm laying on the table. He does it. He taps me on the chest. Yeah, you torn your ACL. Mm-hmm. And when he said it, it's everything went quiet because it's pregame. Locker rooms under the stadium, so you still hear all the fans and everything. But when he said that, I didn't everything zoned out, and it's I immediately was thinking what do I do? Yeah, I'm a freshman, all that, but I've never been in this situation to understand how I'm supposed to react or what I'm about to go through physically, mentally, and all that. And it's early. It's the first home game. Mm-hmm. And so, I just remember the emotions I felt. They gave me the crutches right away. And I, I still go out on the sideline. And, like, some of the guys, like, he on crutches? Like, what? We just saw you, what's going on? And every time I had to tell somebody, yeah, I tore my ACL, and the face they gave me and the face I gave them back, like,
yeah,
pain. A different type of pain.
Definitely. Because even you talk about, your mom helping you make that decision, and then I'm sure in that moment, it had to be running through your mind to where it's like, because I tore my ACL my freshman year of training camp. So like a week before the first game, I was at starting nickel too. Like I was geeked, and tore my ACL in one-on-ones. This was back when you could do 2-a-days too. So it was the second part of the practice, and we were doing one-on-ones. And I tore it like you talked about. Like I never had a significant injury, and so when it happened, I didn't really know, but I knew something was wrong. So we had the assessment, and like I was fine because like everybody saw it, so like nobody really had to ask me anything. But then like when they dropped it was like 2 days later, they dropped it on ESPN, and like my phone blew up, and then like at that moment, I just felt like devastated. I was like very, very, very low, just because at that moment I was like, everybody know that I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do the most. I'm not going to be able to be out on the field. And now it's just like, am I forgotten about? Who's there for me?
Yeah.
Who do I look to in this situation? And so for you talked about your mom, helping you make that decision, but also you being a part of a basketball family. Who did you look to, in this situation that kind of helped you get through it? From the moment that the injury happened, that they diagnosed it, to like you being able to hit the field again that next year.
Yeah. It was really tough. I went home a lot, like away games. I would, able to drive to go see my mom, stuff like that. But it took a while for me to like kind of come out of my shell a little bit, because I'm just naturally conservative. I don't talk a whole lot to anybody. And, it took a couple months, and I got with Miss Ginger on our team, and I had to see some help, really, do some counseling, just to get things out. And I think this really like the first time I ever really like talked about this in any type of setting, really. It took a while for me to even tell my mom that I was doing any type of counseling for it. Because like I had 3 surgeries that year. I ended up tearing both of my shoulder labrums. And, it was just a lot of self-doubt, a lot of like, am I even going to be able to do this anymore the same? And there's always tough transition when you're going from you the man or whatever in high school, and then you get to that type of level, and injury or not, and you're not the man, but now you're injured and you're not even around the team, really. And you feel forgotten about from within your own guys, the homies. You're not even really working out with them. Those 6:30 workouts you hated, now you're like, watching from afar, like, dang, I wish I could work out at 6:30. So it took me a lot to just talk to anybody. I talked to Cam a lot too, from time to time, whenever I guess felt like I could voice my opinion, or even he would just come to me. You know what I mean? But every now and then my teammates, things like that. But I had to go get some counseling, things like that. Somebody that didn't know me at all, that was just willing to listen. Not that I didn't have people or anybody that was willing to listen. It's just you feel vulnerable sometimes to somebody that know you, but not that side of you that you're not usually talking about, let alone in a situation that you've never been in. When you talking to somebody about being at the bottom of the bottom, and that person is used to seeing you at the top. You like, I don't even know if I want to talk to them about it, because you may worry about the perception that they may have on you from now on. And even though it's not going to be like that, like your mom, it would never change. But it's just like, being comfortable to do that. So
I always felt like, even in that situation, I didn't want to bring my parents just like unnecessary worry.
That too.
And to where, like, that was probably one of the hardest calls that I ever had to make, was to call like my mom and call my dad to tell them, because I tore my ACL my freshman year, tore my Achilles my sophomore year, and then my other ACL my senior year. So I did 6 years, and that was the hardest call, because I had to, my senior year, like we playing. It's the week of the game this time. So I tore my first one the week before the game, or a week before the game in training camp, and then my senior year when I tore the week of the game. So it's like a Wednesday, and like we getting ready, like game plan, all this stuff, 1-on-1s again. So from that moment, I was like, I'm not doing one. Yeah, I was like, I'm not doing 1-on-1s no more. Like I'm good on. Don't ask me to do no more 1-on-1s. Yes. But that was one of the hardest calls I ever had to make, was to my parents, to like on the bed in the training room, telling them like, I'm not playing this weekend. Like I tore my ACL. And then, like, to me, it was like I did it before. So, like, to me, I was like, I know I'm going to get through it. But, like, just bringing that worry and, like, them knowing that I'm in pain, I didn't even want to, like, put that pressure on them. Because it's just, like, I just felt like I took that, I don't know. I probably put too much pressure on myself.
True.
But just being in that situation as, like, a 20-year-old kid and those different things. And then, like, you talked about trying to go to someone else, a teammate who is – doing everything that you want to be doing, because that year they went to the national championship, right? Yeah. They played Clemson. Yeah. And so being able to, obviously be sidelined and to watch that, how much has that helped you, even to this day? Because I think we're going to get there, but I think it helped you to, like, now to in a position to where it's like being patient. So how much, did that experience help you learn the value of patience?
It taught me to, like, make the best out of any situation. So, like, being defensive back, freshman under Coach Saban can be a lot. Playbook and all that. And he had me playing nickel and corner, and his defense, nickel, has a lot. And, like, it was a lot to take on when I was doing it. So, after I took maybe like 2, 3 weeks, and, just kind of had to pick my chin up and what can I make out of this situation? Well, you can still go to meetings. You can still go learn the playbook while not making the mistakes, while someone else makes a mistake and learn from it. So I still treated every day as if I was getting ready to play that Saturday. So I would still go to meetings. I would watch practice from the weight room, things like that, watch the older guys, watching Trey Diggs, watching Savion, watching Pat when he was getting out there as a freshman, Shaheem Carter, and trying to learn from those guys in some type of way. And it was from afar, but it helped me a ton. Like, when I got back, even when I felt like I was nowhere near 100%, mentally, like, I was much better than where I was before, to where, I was able to adapt and keep myself relevant on the team or within the depth chart, because mentally I was prepared. And he can really trust me to play the dime, the nickel, and the corner, because I was able to learn, during the season and things like that. And also keep trust with him, because when in meetings I sat right next to Coach Saban all 4 years, from day one till COVID, and we had to spread out. And so, him still seeing that I cared, still being there, he still had the trust within me to where when I was back to, put me in tough situations on the field to see if I'll be able to thrive and things like that. And so fast forward into situations when I'm healthy, or in any other situation, like, I carry that with me to just, if anything happens to me, okay, well, it sucks. But it's nothing I can do about it at this point. So going forward, what am I going to do going forward to help this situation in any type of way? And it was tough to realize that, being that young. Like I said, it took a couple of weeks for me to kind of, like, get out of the hole. But that's like a moment in my life that I'll never forget, because I think about it all the time. In times where it gets hard, and, whether it's on the field or off the field, if it's something that gets hard, and I think about the time that I was in that hole, one, I never want to get back in that hole mentally. Like, I never want to feel like I'm in that kind of space that I was in. And two, like I said, how can I find something positive out of this to just keep going forward? Because whatever happened, it happened. And there's nothing I can do about it. So move on.
Yeah. Now, you had the memory of, that first home game where you got hurt. Now talk about the memory of the first home game that you played in, and just the family was probably back, that same energy, probably some nerves too.
A ton.
So talk about just that moment where you probably were in that same situation, that 7-on-7 situation. You were like, oh, like, all right, like, you was going 60%. You probably was going like 20% this time. But talk about that moment and just, how you felt knowing the work that you put in, but like the moment is, back again.
Yeah, so it was Duke. The opening game was a neutral site game the following year. And it was funny is that in pregame for that game, I actually was going like way harder.
Okay.
Because I was just hyped to be back out there. You know what I mean? Just hyped to put the jersey back on, be back out with the homies instead of watching from the sideline. Just feeling the energy. I was actually going like way harder. Mm-hmm. But yeah, my nerves was crazy. I remember like the butterflies, like it felt like I couldn't even feel my toes. Felt like I'm not even like walking on the grass. Feel like I'm just floating across the field. And but as every athlete know, after the first play, after the first hit, it's whatever. But I definitely had my family there and great support system, but I still wasn't like happy because like I got in some special teams and got in at the end. We was like blowing them out, stuff like that. But it was a check that I could check off to know that I got through what I was going through to get back to this point. So now that I know that I can get myself back to this point, let's figure out what I can do to get like past it and better. So, I'll say that's how it helped me out the most.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting point too, though, because it's like as a high level athlete, you still want to be the best you can be. Like I feel like sometimes things happen and then you be like, all right, like I'm an athlete, it happened, I got to get past it. Yeah. That's kind of how I treated just my injuries, where it's just like to me, after the first couple. And people were just like, man, you're so strong. You kept going. You kept fighting. I was like, if I wanted to play football again, I just had to go through the rehab process. I had to keep going.
Yeah.
But in that process, you talked about Nick Saban and, you being right next to him in that whole process. Talk about him as a coach and then talk about what he did, for your confidence, because obviously we all know Nick Saban is one of the greatest of all time. But you had the opportunity to work with him day in and day out, play a position that he coached. And then also probably, in a room full of, star-studded guys where it was like you started at the bottom but then had to really grind and work your way all the way back up, to where you started your junior year and your senior year and things like that. So kind of just, talk about what he did for your development, in that personal relationship.
Man, I have a lot of talks with him, and just going up to his office. And I think the biggest thing I had to learn about him before I started to learn from him was like the way he would communicate to you. Because he's always talking to the person that he believes that you can be, even like when you're not there yet. And like when you're not there yet and he's talking to you, it may feel funny, or, you're like, you don't really understand it yet. Like, why are you being like that, or something like that, and understanding the expectations that he had of me. Like he thought I was smart. Like he knew I could take on certain things that he may feel like someone else couldn't. Or he may feel like I could have taken the style of coaching from him that someone else couldn't. Like he may get on to you like 10 times harder than someone else. But it's like it'll be easy for you to take that personal, like favoritism or something like that. But it's like, no, I have such high expectations for you to be able to take this type of coaching and learn from it, that I can do that to you and let the person that can't take it watch me do it to you and learn from it. But you can take it and learn from it when someone else may just ball up and didn't hear a word you said, you just hear things like that. So once I understood his way of communicating to me and just one-on-one talks with him, it motivated me to a point, because it's like he's the greatest. And the greatest believes in me so much that it's like, why would I not get to that point? Or why would I not do what it takes to get to that point? You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to tell you need to go study this or do that. You need to go lift extra or anything like that. He's just letting you know the end goal and where he expects you to be. But when someone like that gives you a point to get to, naturally you're going to start to figure out, what do I need to do to get to that? Like, he doesn't need to give you a list of things, because at the end of the day, it's not really like teaching you to be like a man, do this, do that, because at the end of the day, as a football player, when you get older, or as just a man in life, you're going to have to find those answers. And without people realizing that, that's like what he does to like all his players in individual ways, whatever they may need. But for me, that was 100% what I need, because like going through what I was going through, the confidence was getting lower and lower. And so the end goal and what I expected from myself was getting lower and lower. And when he started to see that, he made sure that he put it back up to like, no, you're supposed to be doing this. Like you getting satisfied with, something that your levels above. And he helped me with that the most, like make me realize who I am and what I could be. And it just forced me to figure out how to get to that point. And no matter how long it took, I was always working towards it. Even in times when I didn't realize it, I was always finding what I need to get to the point that what someone like Coach Saban expects out of me. And I always respect him for that. A lot of people from the outside in, they have their opinions. But, Coach Saban really cares about everybody that's on that team. It's not all football with him. Like classroom, your well-being, he really cares about everybody on the team, everybody in the building. And he wants to see everyone gets their full potential. And that's what he lives for. So it's hard to see him not there anymore because I know what he's desiring as he's watching from the outside in. But, it's always in his heart to, see his guys reach their limit,
Do you remember that specific moment where you got to that point? Or was there a specific moment, or was it just like a multitude of things that you just,
yeah.
And you look back and it was like, I see what you were talking about, like this is who you wanted me to be?
I think around the time the transfer thing started to happen, like
this your true junior year?
True junior year.
Yeah.
And I played a lot, but third down situations, stuff like that. But I'm talking about like being like the starter.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And at the end of that year, it's like you going into like your real senior season. You hadn't even been like a full-time starter for real yet. And for a lot of guys at any school, let alone at Alabama,
that's what I was about. Yeah.
you're probably gonna transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on my mind for sure. It was on my mind. I had my first daughter by then, and to be honest, man, she saved it for me, because if I didn't have my daughter, I probably would have thought about it even more. But I just didn't really want to move around. Who knows where you end up with my daughter and all that. I really want to stay put. And so I was going into that season really just on some, it has to go. Like, you should always go into that, but like that different type of pressure where you're like, if you don't do this now, you're going to have to start looking for other things to do, not another place to go. And the mindset, it's like, I don't even really know how to describe the mode I went into. Like, people that's close to me, that was close to me at the moment, would have to describe from what they seen, like looking at me from, outside looking in. And I even remember some of my teammates, we went into the spring practice, just like, man, you good? Like, you just not smiling or nothing. Like, you still rock with us? We good? Like, it was just a different level of, I'm not really thinking about no one else or what no one else is thinking about me. It's somewhere I'm trying to get to, and I'm not really seeing anything else. And it's like hard to describe. I just know that was the moment that it happened. But like what I did in those moments and all that, I was like, I can't even like tell you. Like, I don't even really remember. Like, it's not even like, oh, I went to work out 5 times a day or saw a different trainer, anything. It's like all mental.
Yeah.
You know
I mean,
what I mean?
To the degree it was bigger than you.
Way bigger.
It was, you had obviously another, mouth to feed.
Mm-hmm.
And you took it upon yourself, just, being a man, to where it's like, I'm going to make it shake. I
have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to. I didn't have a choice.
Yeah. But now, I feel like you just had another daughter as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we look into that. We revisit some of the early time into your career at Bama, and with just some of the adversity, and then now some of the patience as well, and then some of those lessons that you've learned heading into this 2024 season, with the Ravens. Is that same, some of it is looking a lot similar. Like, it's some synergy there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
How has this off season, been different for you?
I just had this talk with my trainer. I just told him, I was like, man, I feel like I've been in this exact position before. Like, as far as my position on the team, mental space. Ironically, I just had another daughter. I had an injury my rookie season that cost me a lot, and the mental space that I'm in now in the off season, it just feels like a repeat. And I love that, but the thing that I hated the most that I had to like self-assess is like, when or why or how did I kick out of the mode that got me to where I want to be? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you had the surgery and all that your rookie season, but like when and why was that mode, how did it exit to where I had to get back into it? You know what I mean? Like, good, I got back into it, but like, this is
why didn't it stick?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And I'm in that mode right now. You know what I mean? I've been in that mode, training and everything, OTAs. Like, I'm very excited for OTAs and everything coming up. But the main thing for me is sustaining the consistency, because I've never been like a super overly confident person, but I've never been like down on myself to where I know what I can do. But I know like when I'm in that mode, what happens with the rest. And so it's just like it's frustrating for me, because it's like, man, when you're in that mode, like you get everything that you desire. Why are you not always in that?
Right.
So that's the main thing for me right now, is staying in that and letting everything take care of itself. Like, I don't even really need to think about the season. I need to think about me and how I'm approaching it, because when I approach it the way I need to, it'll happen.
Before the show, we talked about a Bama OG, which is Marlon, playing with some young greats like Kyle Hamilton, being able to learn from veterans like Roquan, and that's just the defensive side of the ball. Now you go to the offensive side of the ball, you got Lamar, a veteran, and Ronnie Stanley. So a bunch of just veterans on the team, but very confident, high-key, high caliber players. How have they helped you adjust and just also deal with some of the adversity?
Yeah, everybody that you just named, but really it's the entire organization. I think for me, my situation, it couldn't be a better team for me to be a part of. Coming from Alabama, where it's such a standard, and not just a high standard from everyone else, but a standard that we have for ourselves. The Ravens is the same. Like, it's a standard that everybody say it has a standard. Every team says it. It's the bar you got to play at. But it's the real standard when you have a standard that the rest of the teams know about. Like, to the point that where if another team see the Ravens playing not up to their standard, they know that the Ravens tripping. That's like a real standard that is real in Baltimore, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So, being around something like that, like, you got to be on point. And you never want to be the odd man out with the organization, or even with the players, with guys like Marlon and Kyle and things like that. Like, you never want to be the odd man that's not tackling, or that's not hitting, that's not flying to the ball, or that's not coming with the right attitude. So it's like, even if you're not in that mind frame, you either gonna get left behind, or you're gonna make sure when you walk in the building that you have it on your mind, because you don't want to be that guy. Nobody wants to be that guy, and you want to find a way to be the guy at the top. So being around guys that's such high caliber, around guys that's at the top or on their way to the top, is so motivating, and we all get along. Like, it's something that you feel is never talked about in the building. Like, you just know, and you feel it, and you see it when guys practicing, or even when we playing other teams. Like, when everybody's on it, when everybody's on there on defense or even on offense, like, everybody sees it on Sunday. We all know the result. So going from Alabama to Baltimore is like the best situation, because it's like, in my opinion, I went from the highest standard at one level to the highest standard at the next level, and it's like, that's a dream for anybody. So.
We could get to some fun questions now.
Okay.
Got my cheat sheet here. We in New York, so obviously New York is really big on fashion, and so I heard that you want to get into the fashion industry. You got your mind on things outside of football. And also heard that you may style some of your teammates because they need some help in that department. Everybody, some people would be great football players, but, when it comes to
just ain't got
getting dressed, they ain't got it. They ain't got it in them. So kind of just, talk about, I guess, where that love for, fashion came from.
Yeah.
And just, how that get started, and then maybe just a little bit on your brand of what you can speak on and things that's in the works.
Bit. The fashion thing, man, I just feel like it's in you. Really, like I can't even really speak on the moment that I realized that I really enjoyed it. Like when I was a kid, like I didn't have it to just be buying everything like that, or like I'm a huge sneakerhead. My mom did not buy me Jordan, but she chose. But my mom she wasn't going to, even if she could. Like I remember I got in trouble at school. She sent me to school in some, I don't know, something. They weren't Jordans. I love Jordans. But there's one kid that didn't care about it, but his parents kept him lacing Jordans. And now we would switch shoes when we got to school. And I got caught one day. My mom found out, and it was bad when I got home. But it's just
he was just like, cool. What shoes? Like he liked the shoes you rocked, or
he did, and I guess he didn't really care about his.
Yeah.
And I remember he had the white Smith 4s, and I was like, I need those. And I couldn't take him home or anything, but he was like, we could switch shoes. I loved it. And my teacher told on me. I ain't like that, but she told on me. But with the fashion, like it's always something that I've looked into. Like it's just natural when I walk in the room, see what somebody wearing or see what's on their feet. Not to judge them, but just, oh, that's fire. You know what I'm saying? I like that. And having the opportunity to be able to create some of my own is something that I got to take advantage of. Like I have to, you know what I mean? And being an opportunity to being around some of the guys in the locker room that I know would support me and everything like that when it does come out, when everything does get rolling. It's success on it is cool, but just the opportunity to be able to create something of your own and produce it and wear it and give it to your family and things like that, and just to call it mine. It's something that I cherish and something that I'll take really serious because I want someone to like it. I want you to love it. I want you to, give me ideas on, how you feel like improving and what you like about it, things like that. So, but some of the guys in the locker room, they may need some help. Not gonna call them names, but they do. But it's just in you though. You gotta be born with it.
Another interest outside of football, I heard is you want to get into becoming a sports broadcaster or analyst. Have you, because I know the NFL do some stuff in the off season. They just held a broadcasting thing. Have you been able to, tap into that industry at all a little bit in off season, or, podcasting or whatever it is? Have you been able to dive into that?
Yeah, I haven't yet. It's something that's definitely on my list, like you said. Whether it's this off season where I still have some time, or for sure next off season, dive into it right after the season. But I haven't yet, but it's been on my radar. Like when I'm at home, I'm always watching some type of podcast. If I'm not watching football, I don't usually watch TV, but if I'm not watching football, if I'm not watching boxing, I'm watching some type of podcast just throughout the day, or, driving around in the car, just playing it. Just, it just interests me to just see people have just genuine conversations. So, to be able to have an opportunity to get in that type of space is definitely something that I see in front of me, but it's on the way, I would say.
Yeah. Now you got a new one, Varsity House Podcast. Check it out, every week.
For sure.
Also, we talked about basketball earlier, and we were talking about, some of the receivers that's come through Alabama, and just that receiver room that was great at basketball. You played basketball growing up as well. Give me your top 5 Alabama basketball players during your time.
In order.
In order, yeah.
Oh, that's hard to do in order. Okay, in order, that's tough. And I'm gonna start at the top. Number 1, I probably had to go Smitty, man. Smitty was nice on the court. Oh wait, hold on, I don't know. I'll get Smitty number 1. Number 2, I'll go Ruggs. Just they bounce was crazy. Number 3, give me Brandon Turnage. He was a defensive back. I think he enrolled in 2019. He's at Ole Miss now. And if anybody's seen, they just had a dunk contest for their spring game.
I seen that. That was him.
crazy.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm gonna give BT number 3. Give me Waddle at 4. Who else was nice on the court though?
You're not gonna include yourself?
I'm not gonna include myself. Nah, I ain't gonna. Give me Terrell Shavers. Shavers was on our team, I think my first 2 years, like 6'5". He's in Buffalo now. He ended up transferring to Mississippi State, but he's in Buffalo now. But I mean, he's 6'5" and athletic, like you know how that goes. So they always nice, like they were ridiculous. They would do the little intramurals, and people just amazed whenever they seen
they
them.
was allowed to do intramurals.
Kill them. It was ridiculous. Like it looked like 2012 Miami Heat whenever they was out there. Just alley-oops, nobody shooting anything. They just dunking everywhere. It's nasty. It was nasty.
They probably sold out them gyms, huh?
They was in there. Once they realized it was a regular thing, they coming through for sure.
You just mentioned boxing. Did you grow up boxing at all, or is it just something that you love watching? Have you do it for workouts?
Yeah, I didn't grow up boxing. I actually just started doing it, but I was a boxing fan. Like I was Floyd Mayweather. Was somebody I watched a lot. Around when I got like middle school, high school, I watched a lot of Jamal Charlo. I love watching it now. Here for the fight this weekend to watch it. But I started doing it recently with my trainer Curtis Shannon, who I train with in Fort Lauderdale. He's also on the training team for Tank Davis, and he does a lot of boxing himself. So I do just some kind of cardio with it. Like if we do a 2-a-day, we'll train in the morning, get on the field, do some weight room, take a break, probably about 6:30 p.m. or something. We'll get in the gloves, do some mitts or something like that, just to, stay sharp, but also get a good sweat. So boxing is something it's just intriguing to me. I can watch it all day.
Favorite fighters?
Tank for sure.
Tank, yeah.
I still like Jamal Charlo, even though he kind of been out the ring a little bit. Spence, big fan of Spence.
Would you ever like down the road get in the ring and do like the Nate Robinson thing, or who else did it? Chad Johnson is a boxer now.
I doubt it, man, because that's just wow.
You really putting yourself in a
it ain't necessary.
Position.
It's not. I'll do some sparring.
You're right,
or something like that, but just all out getting in the ring just because and we doing whatever. No, I doubt I do that. Unless it's just some a good amount of money on the line. We'll see.
Nah, I don't think you could get I think I would need 3 full years of training. And I would still need an amateur. I wouldn't be able to fight.
For sure.
Like,
ain't no play boxing.
Yeah.
Once you in there, you in there. So if you're not ready, don't get in there.
I couldn't even imagine that. that. But now, obviously, this is something that I guess that ties into some of your marketing, some of the off-field stuff. Because your last year was NIL, right, in college?
Yeah.
So how has from NIL to even now, how has marketing just played a piece into your, whether it's off season but also in season, just growing your brand and doing some of those things?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've learned and still learning is just relationships and anything, not just always looking to receive something or the deal to get a certain amount of money or anything. Just relationships, especially while I'm young, while I'm still active in the NFL, to it'll bleed over to after football. So I mean, marketing wise, while I'm in deals and all that is great, but I think the biggest thing is the relationships. Just you meet people. Like I said, I was always a very conservative person. So having to come out of my shell to just, get to know people, just because, as a friendship wise, not always wanting somebody from somebody in some type of deal. So that would be the biggest thing that I would emphasize that I've been learning, or if I could speak to someone that's coming up in the NIL world or, that's transitioning or that's getting into any type of marketing. It's just relationships, get to know people and let people get to know you. You know what I mean? So that's the biggest thing I would,
And last question, I just started doing this recently. If there is one person that you would want to see on the podcast next, who would it be? But you have to help get them on.
I think somebody would. That's some personality or something. You got to get Marlo on here. I'm not going to lie. Marlo, even though he has his own podcast, but Marlon come with a lot of energy, and he gonna have a lot to say, no matter what the question is. So I would definitely say Marlon Humphrey or Kyle. Kyle always got something slick to say, as you know. Kyle always got some shade he gonna throw on something or something slick. So either Kyle or Marlo for sure.
Bet.
Yeah.
Well, Jalyn, I appreciate you doing this for me, man. I think it was a point in this conversation to where I was like, I had to like crack a joke where I was about to cry. Just like talking about just being able to relate on the injury side of thing. I think a lot of the conversations that I have with people don't necessarily, I guess, go that far. So being able to, talk on that experience, but also as a freshman, relying on family, relying on faith, relying on coaching staff, other players. Like, I think that's a huge piece that sometimes is missed, because all we care about is, all maybe fans care about, and maybe even the media or people that's on the field, to where it's like there's a group of people that are doing the same amount of work, but just, got to wait a little bit longer. And so I think having that conversation was definitely good, good to hear, and I think it'll be great for our audience to hear that, being open to going out and receiving, help, being able to talk to somebody when you're going through some, tough situations. And so being able just to share that moment, I appreciate that. I appreciate you opening up.
For sure.
And I'm excited to see, what you got coming this year, especially when I know the mindset you in. And so when I watch you go against the Browns, I'm from Cleveland, so when I watch you against the Browns, you do your thing, but doing
dirty.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you, man, and even bringing up those type of topics, because those are some things that I rarely speak on, in any type of setting or with anybody at all. So just giving me the opportunity to really just like let that out, you know what I mean, and to talk about it. And sometimes when you're speaking on it, you don't even realize some of the things that you went through or the mind frame that you was in until you speak on it. So, just bringing that up, give me the opportunity to share that. I appreciate that, the most. But, I'm just excited about next season, and I'm sorry for your Browns ahead of time, but
hey,
business is business.
I'm a players guy now.
Okay.
The teams, I could root for the players, as long as, my guys are balling, we good. I try to, as long as my players make the Super Bowl and
we good. That's the goal.
Throw a ticket out there, hey. Yeah, we good. But this is Varsity Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Crawford. Guest Jalyn Armour-Davis with the Ravens. Appreciate you coming on, and definitely excited for the season you got coming up.
For sure. Appreciate you for having me.